Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my movie vlog. My name is John Campia, and this is a special companion supplemental video to the John Campia Show and, of course, Open Mic. Now, every day on the John Campia Show and on the Open Mic Show, I take your live questions, but sometimes I don't have time to get around to all of them. So what I do is I take all those questions and I get them all answered here on this supplemental video. Now, today's video, there's going to be a lot of questions about, I mean, I haven't read them, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about the new Avengers Infinity War trailer. So the first group of questions we're going to get to were from yesterday's Open Mic Show. And then the second half of the questions are going to be from this morning's John Campia Show. And there's going to be a lot of questions about the Thor Infinity War and a lot of comments about Avengers Infinity War. And let's get things started right now. And we start off, again, these are questions from yesterday before the Infinity War trailer dropped. We'll get to the Infinity War trailer here in just a second. Ben Rayner writes, Costner in Robin Hood had a bad accent. Yeah, we talked on yesterday's show about, a question came up about some accents that some actors use in different movies that have stood out to you as being bad accents. I mentioned Keanu Reeves in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Some people were saying that Benedict's American accent in Doctor Strange didn't work for them. I thought it worked for me. But another good one is Kevin Costner. Yeah, that one comes in and out. His English accent comes in and out throughout the movie, back and forth a little bit. It is kind of funny, although I love that movie. The Last of the Time Lords writes, who is your top 5 favorite WWE wrestlers? Mine are Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, Bret Hart, Goldberg, and Kevin Nash. Jericho is number 1. He's awesome. Well, I don't like doing top 5 questions, top 10 questions, because I would have to sit down and write out a list. My all-time favorite wrestler is Bret the Hitman Hart. He's just incredible. So I'll tell you that one. He's my absolute favorite is Bret Hart. Next one is also from The Last of the Time Lords. What are your thoughts on the Dean Cain incarnation of Superman? I loved it. That Lois and Clark is my favorite TV show. I didn't love it. I'll be honest with you. I didn't love the show. I watched maybe about 5 to 7 episodes because it's Superman. But I'll be honest with you, the show never really did it for me. I never really got all that into it. And I know that makes a lot of my friends go, what? But yeah, I just never dug it. I'm glad you liked it. You clearly had a real love for it and it lasted a number of seasons. Clearly the show had a lot of fans. It was kind of fun seeing Dean Cain show up in the new Supergirl show. That's a nice little throwback. But honestly, for me, it's not a show that really worked all that well for me. Master Nameless writes, recommendation, The Bad Seed from 1956. Didn't the last S in Kiss sounded as if I was calling you stupid? No. So anyway, Master Nameless on yesterday's show asked a previous question about, hey, just use the KISS method. Keep it simple. I said, isn't that supposed to be KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it simple, stupid? But apparently you're pointing out you didn't want to call me stupid. Don't worry, I know you weren't calling me stupid. As far as the recommendation, The Bad Seed, a 1956 film. There you go, everybody. A new recommendation to add to your list, The Bad Seed. Thanks for sharing that, Master Nameless. All right, the next one comes to us from Alan Gonzalez, who writes, any update on the Spawn movie? No, I haven't heard anything. All I know is that McFarlane for 10 years has been saying he's going to do a new one. And it feels like every 8 months, a new announcement. Oh, now we've got this. Now we're doing this. And certainly, yes, every 8 months he comes out with something about now it's really happening. And maybe it is really happening. I don't know. All I know is that I'm not all that interested in it. The Spawn comic book series was revolutionary. What really made me lose hope for any kind of a new Spawn movie is when they said like a year or 2 years ago that they're going to do it and McFarlane himself is going to direct it. Really, a guy who knows nothing about directing movies is going to direct it. Great. That's fantastic. So I not only don't know of any more new updates, I just don't care about it. I'm predicting this thing is going to be a horrible mess, even if it happens. Now, there are other movies that I thought would be horrible messes, and I've gone in and watched them go, wow! So maybe that'll happen with Spawn. I mean, look, you always got to take, it's good to have expectations, but then when you go in to see a movie, you got to take those expectations and leave them at the door. Don't bring your expectations into the theater with you, leave them at the door. And that's what I'll do with Spawn. But right now, my expectations is that I don't have any hope for it. I think it sounds like it's a bloody mess at this point, but who knows? Might end up being great. Let's see. Adil Hassan writes, hey, John, love your reviews. Thank you so much. Regarding the Disney/Fox deal, why is there government approval involved? How does it work? Keep up the good, unbiased work. Hail Hydra. Well, it's involved because there are anti-competition or anti-competitive laws in place. There are rules in place to protect consumers, to make sure that the marketplace stays an open field and all this kind of stuff. So, for example, let's say all the cell phone companies decided they wanted to all merge together and make one giant phone company. That would be bad for consumers. Without competition, there's no innovation, there can be price fixing, all that kind of stuff. It's bad for consumers. So there are laws in place that give the government some flexibility to prevent certain mergers if they think it would be anti-competitive, and it would be bad for the marketplace and bad for consumers. They have the ability to do that. And it's good that they have these sorts of laws and rules in place. So when you get mega corporation companies like Fox and like Disney, or like AT&T and Warner and Time Warner, because that's another big mega blockbuster deal going on that's being held up by the government, then the government will want to go over that deal with a fine-tooth comb, assess whether this will be bad for the marketplace and bad for consumers, and if it can create a monopoly, if it increases the chances for a monopoly. And these are circumstances in which the government will then step in and prevent stuff. It's for the protection of consumers. And I'm not a big fan of government getting involved in everything, but this is one of those things where I think it's a good thing that they keep an eye on it. It's a good thing that they get involved sometime. We'll just have to see if they approve this one or not. All right. Next one comes to us from K Major, who writes, the Shazam photos are a perfect example and exhibit A for people who think X-Men should be in original costumes. No kidding. Can you imagine Jackman in yellow spandex? LOL, terrible. Yeah, that's one of the things I've been saying the last couple of days is that it's not Captain Marvel anymore. It's Shazam. Shazam pictures that have come up showing the actual costume that Zach Levi is wearing is very true to the comic book. And I'm not going to get too worked up because I don't know it in context, but to me it doesn't look good. It looks silly. And this is a great example of why you shouldn't just take a costume, depending on the cost. Some costumes would work great on the page and work great in a live action film. Some costumes do. Some costumes don't. That Shazam costume is an example that doesn't. To me, in my opinion anyway. All right. Nicholas Glenn writes, did you collect Kenner Star Wars toys as a kid? If so, do you still have any of them? And what's your fondest memory of them? Oh, I had tons. And I kick myself every day when I see the value of those toys now that I did not keep or I did not take care of or whatever, because they're all gone. My fondest memory is playing with my X-Wing. My mom and dad got me the X-Wing, and I would play with the X-Wing all the time. They got me other ships too, but the X-Wing was the one I played. I also remember the Snow Speeder. I remember I was freaked out. I love the Snow Speeder one. So those are some of my favorite ones. All right. Next one comes to us from Starman, who writes, favorite video game and or video game franchise? Well, I've been asked that question a whole bunch of times. I'll give you the same answer. It's X-Wing and TIE Fighter. Those old school games, X-Wing and TIE Fighter, those are still my favorite games of all time. I loved those games. They're still my favorite. More modern one, well, not all that modern, but as you get close to modern time, World of Warcraft. I've probably spent more time in my life playing World of Warcraft than any other game, and StarCraft. And StarCraft 2, which is great. So those are my all-time favorite games. A lot of Blizzard in there, you can tell. Next one comes to us from Alan Gonzalez, who writes, what is a healthy runtime for a TV show? 10 seasons, 15 seasons? Oh, no, it all depends on the show. There is no one true answer. Very, very, very few shows get to 10 seasons. Very few shows get to 10 seasons. For some shows, 3 seasons is the perfect length. For some shows, 7 seasons is the perfect length. I mean, there is no one solid answer. Like, what's a healthy series run? 10? There's no answer. There's no correct answer. For some, it's 1 season. For some, it's 4. For some, it's 7. For some, it's 10. It really depends on the show and what kind of pace the show moves at and all that kind of stuff. So there's no answer. But even saying that, 10 and 15 is a huge high number. Very, very small percentage of TV shows ever get to 10 seasons. That's like really far out there. All right. Next one comes to us from Maja Norbye, who writes, hey, John, love your show. Thank you so much. Would you consider Hedwig's theme from Harry Potter iconic? From a huge Potterhead, I don't know. I don't even know what piece of music that is. I don't even know. The only music from Harry Potter I know is the main theme. Dun, 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 dun. That's the only one I know. I couldn't hear any other piece of music from Harry Potter and tell you what it was. So I certainly don't know what Hedwig's theme is off the top of my head. So I'm the wrong guy to ask. Sorry about that, Maja. All right. Next one comes to us from Royce Freeman, who writes, do you feel that in films like Last House on the Left, it is acceptable to linger on the attacks on the victim and revenge for intensity and realism? Yeah, I do. I think there are times that graphic, horrible stuff is good to use in your film if it's meant as a way to put your audience in a certain position. You know, if you use it in a way, because we want the audience to feel this, because if the audience can feel this, it will increase the experience of what's to come later. If that's what they use it for, then it's great. It's a great thing to use it for. And I know some people don't think you should show overly graphic stuff, whether it's torture or whatever, things like that. But And sometimes they shouldn't. Sometimes it's just putting on torture on the screen for the sake of putting on torture. But it's when it's used for a narrative purpose, again, to make sure you're putting the audience in a certain position so they're going to have a heightened experience later on in the film that can't be achieved unless they viscerally experience something that the victim or that one of the characters in the movie is going through, then I believe it's a good thing to do. I believe it's a good thing. So it can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing. It's all about how it's used and when it's used as a device. All right, let's move on. Next question comes to us from Dirk Diggler, who writes, I would have preferred the Shazam outfit on the Superman/Shazam, the Return of Black Adam DVD cover. What do you think? Yeah. I know the one you're talking about where you see Superman Shazam facing this way and then from the point of view from behind Black Adam a little bit looking out. Yeah, that costume looked better. It looked more like Superman's costume, but it certainly looked, I think that costume would look better in a live action environment than the one they decided to use. So I agree with you on that, Dirk. Hans Gruber writes, check out Technique Critique. An accent coach / expert reviewing great and really bad performances in popular movies / series. Surprisingly fascinating. All right, I've never heard of Technique Critique. An accent coach reviewing good and bad performances. That actually sounds fascinating. I have not heard of the channel, but thank you for the recommendation, Hans. I'm going to check that out. Thank you for bringing that up. Chris Bradford writes, thoughts on Ava DuVernay directing New Gods? Well, we talked about that on the John Campea show earlier today. She's a great director, but what's going on with the New Gods, I don't know. Most of the news sites right now are reporting that it's not going to be connected to the DCEU. One news site is saying that it is. It sounds like it's not going to be. And we already know DC is setting up new films that aren't going to be connected to the DCEU, and New Gods feels like something that wouldn't be connected to the DCEU. So we'll have to see. I like the choice. I think she's a great director. If anybody who's seen Selma, you know she's a great director. You know, I didn't like Wrinkle in Time. Oh, well, I didn't like Wrinkle in Time. But she's a great director. So I'm all for it. But I'm more curious about what they're doing with this movie. That's what I'm more curious about. All right. Derek Large writes, after watching 30 hours worth of Marvel movies in one sitting, wouldn't you be burnt out by the time Infinity War came around? No kidding. That's why, look, I love the idea of like the little marathons before a new film. But like, 4 movie marathon, 5 movies in a marathon, not 30 hours. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It's just too much. On top of that, you'll be a zombie by the time Infinity War plays. I want to be fresh and sharp and alert. When I watch Infinity War for the first time, I want to be fresh, sharp, and alert. And that's why, hey, for those of you who are going to do it, God bless you, man. It's just not something I could do. I just couldn't do it. The 510 Zone writes, hey, John, who is / was your favorite pro wrestler? Was I answered a little bit earlier. Bret the Hitman Hart. Bret the Hitman Hart is my all-time favorite wrestler. That and Tito Santana. Evan Jenkins writes, John Campea merchandise. Screw you. Love. Screw you. I love the Ewoks. Yeah, I get everybody asking all the time about getting some merchandising done. I don't have an artist to do merchandise designs for me right now, but if I ever get around to getting an artist, definitely a Bring on the Filthy shirt. Screw you. I love the Ewoks. Winning cures everything. There's a whole bunch of shirts I'm get people asking me to make. Once I have a chance to actually find an artist to do it that will charge me next to nothing because I don't have much money, that will definitely be coming. And AFC writes, Bubba from 7-Eleven told me that Felipe, the sentient dancing microphone, has a crossover coming with Eduardo the Dancing Dog in 2021. Thoughts? Yep, it's coming. I'm telling you, I'm working hard at it. The Felipe, the sentient dancing microphone movie will somehow come to fruition someday. All right, those are all the questions that I didn't get around to from the open mic show yesterday. Now we get into questions from today on the John Campea show. Once again, we were talking about the Avengers Infinity War trailer that dropped, and now we got a chance to talk about it here. So here we go. We're starting this off with, again, these were from earlier this morning, from Comic Relief Cast, who writes, Ebony Maw looks like he's taken a few lickings. And Ebony Maw is when in the scene where you see Doctor Strange being tortured, and then it cuts to that other guy going, oh, so creepy. Yeah, it looks like he's been through some crap. Maybe disciplined at the hands of Thanos. Maybe it's just battle scar, whatever. But he looks like he's been through some crap for sure. Killing Joke Quinn writes, hey, John, loving the new format. Thank you so much, Killing Joke. Random question of the day. Are boneless wings chicken nuggets? Kind of. You know what? No. They're more like chicken strips. I think boneless wings are more like chicken strips. That's why I would compare them. But it depends on where you order them from. Like sometimes when I get like boneless wings from, say, Buffalo Wild Wings, they do look more like chicken nuggets, don't they? They kind of do. I don't know. I'll say no for now, but I could be convinced otherwise. Dirk Walker writes, I know you hate the Iron Spidey suit, but the trailer has a cool shot of Peter web-slinging in plain clothes. Fair compromise for MCU to tech up Spidey as long as they give us great scenes without it too. Look, again, to me, it's not that I hate it. What I don't like is the principle that, oh, Spider-Man isn't good enough. Spider-Man isn't cool. No, we need to put him in Iron Man tech. That will make Spider-Man cool. Spider-Man has been one of the coolest comic book characters for generations. Okay? Decades and decades and decades and decades and decades and decades without having to be Iron Man Jr. So I'm sure they'll come up with cool things for him to do in the suit, but don't tell me Spider-Man isn't cool enough or powerful enough or whatever without the Iron Spider armor. It's just a bad taste in my mouth. Look, it's not going to ruin the movie for me. I still love Spider-Man Homecoming, even though it did do that. I still love the movie, and I'm sure I'm going to love this. It's not going to detract from the movie for me. But yes, I do wish they didn't feel the need to make Spider-Man Iron Man Jr. That's just the way I kind of feel about that. Manuel Fernandez writes, Variety says New Gods is in the DCU, and Deadline says it isn't in the DCU. There's a number of sites that are saying that he's not in the DCU. So Variety might be misspeaking. I don't know. Maybe they're right. Maybe everybody else is wrong. But the majority of the reports that I'm reading are saying that it's not in the DCU. And it seems to be consistent with what we know Warner Brothers is doing these days. It does seem like it would be separated from the DCU, but who knows? Maybe it is. We'll find out soon enough for sure. I'm sure about that. Victor Von Doom writes, it was me that burned down the police station. Well, who the else would it be? One of the best lines from the best movies. 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Wonderful, 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 wonderful film. If I was an Academy voter, I would have voted for it to get Best Picture over Shape of Water. And I have no complaints about Shape of Water winning. None at all. It's a magnificent film. So no complaints from me. I'm just saying, had I been one of the voters, I probably would have voted for 3 billboards to win over it. I think it probably should have won over that. DC Patience writes, just got my Cinemia card. Good for you. Do you know if it works with fan events like opening for Avengers? Each ticket is $20. Oh, like for fan events like the marathon stuff? Oh, it probably wouldn't work for the marathon. I would guess. That seems unreasonable. But for like opening nights, it should. It should totally work for you. I know I've bought tickets that were like $25 each. Trust me, guys, like the AMC Prime Theater in Burbank is super expensive, especially like on opening weekends and on a Saturday night. Super expensive. And I've bought in like $25 a ticket with Cinemia. So it should work depending on but like not a marathon event. I wouldn't expect that to work. Ryan Platts writes, one reliable site said is connected to the... Yes. We've been over that. That was Variety that was saying that. Jacob Vick writes, Infinity War poster idea, just the Infinity Gauntlet. Might not be able to do that because I don't know that the average filmgoer would see that and instantly know what it is. You want people to instantly know what it is when you see a poster. So maybe as an alternate poster, sure, but that as a main poster probably wouldn't work. It's not a good marketing tool. It would look, as a piece of art, it would look cool, but as a marketing tool, probably not that good. Alt Production writes, did you cry the first time you saw Logan? No, I basically don't cry in any movies. Like I said, I've cried in like 4 or 5 movies in my life. And it's been a lot of years since I've cried in one. But I felt it, man. I felt it, for sure I felt it. Javier Belmer writes, why does he need a helmet? A king needs a crown. Well, like one of the things I was saying is like watching the Infinity War trailer, you know, there's a shot of Thanos taking off his helmet. I'm like, here's a thought. I understand safety first, but Thanos' skull is probably 20 times stronger than that helmet. Why is he wearing a helmet? And I've had a couple people tweet to me and say, John, it's like his crown. I don't think it's a crown. I think it's just a helmet. So why does he need a helmet? But who knows? It's not important. It's a part of his costume design. I'm not saying I have an issue with it. I was just kind of joking around saying, why does the strongest being in the universe need a helmet? Anyway, just a thought of mine. Let's see. It's Pookie writes, can't hate Snyder. Love 300 action. Need more soon. Oh, I'm a big fan of Zack Snyder. I think it's great that he's getting away from the DCEU. I think for his own good. Like, let's get some new Zack Snyder movies from his own original concepts and stuff. Like, I'm dying to see him do some new stuff. I really, really am. And I saw his short film that he put online not so long ago, and I think like he's just visually he's amazing. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next. Let's see. Sujith writes, in Justice League, the world looks like Apocalypse when the Mother Box Unity is happening, and it looks like New Genesis when the Unity is stopped. Great nod to the New Gods. Yeah, it probably is a little bit of a nod to the New Gods. You're right about that. Anthony Ashmask writes, what if, just what if, God forbid, Infinity War doesn't turn out to be the best film of all time? What if it just turns out to be bad or underwhelming? Well, then it turns out to be bad or underwhelming. I am not expecting Infinity War to be the best film of all time. I'm not even expecting it to be the best Marvel film of all time. I'm not even expecting it to be in the top 5 best Marvel films of all time. I don't need it to be any of those things. Just be a good movie. And if you end up being top 5, or if you end up being the best MCU film, great, bonus. All I need, I remember saying this going to Justice League, I don't need Justice League to be the greatest comic book movie of all time. Just be a good comic book movie. And I'll be happy. Just be a good movie. As long as Infinity War is a good movie, I'll be thrilled. If it ends up being top 5 MCU, bonus. If it ends up being the best MCU film, bonus. But I certainly don't need it to be top 5, and I certainly don't need it to be the best one. Just be a good movie. If it's a good movie, we'll have a blast. It'll be great. It'll be worth it. All that kind of stuff. Doesn't need to be the best. And if it turns out to be bad, then it turns out to be bad. We've seen great trailers turn out sucky films. Maybe Avengers Infinity War will suck. It's possible. And if it does, oh well. Marvel is bound to turn out a crap one sooner or later. And if it does, no big deal. They'll just move on to the next film. So, yeah, there we go. Let's see. El Chupo writes, thanks for setting the Ava DuVernay story straight. Yeah. So for those of you who didn't hear it earlier, and this is very, very important. Everybody needs to hear this and share this. There are headlines going around by absolutely moronic websites with this headline. And we talked about this on the show earlier today. Duvernay uses, I still have the graphic queued up from the show earlier. Wrinkle in Time director Ava DuVernay uses racism to explain away bad reviews. So on its surface, it's like, so Ava DuVernay is saying that the only reason critics didn't like her movie Wrinkle in Time, and I'm one of them. I didn't like Wrinkle in Time. I wanted to like it, but I didn't like it. Okay, whatever. Is Ava DuVernay saying that people just say they don't like it because of racism? That anybody who says that they didn't like the movie is just because of racism? You read this headline, that's exactly what this headline is implying. That Ava DuVernay is saying it's because of racism that the movie got bad reviews. Well, that's outrageous. But then you dig into it, and that whole story, that headline, is based on this tweet about a white reporter mentioning in a tweet that, hey, I talked to Ava DuVernay about the theme, the hidden theme in it, and the subtle moment in the film where the lead character, the little girl, is insecure about her hair. Now, what I, as a white dude, I've never known is apparently that is an issue with a lot of young black girls, is they have insecurities about the way their hair looks. I've never known that, right? So Ava Duvernay responds to this critic and writes, "Hey, you were the only Caucasian journalist of either gender, male or female, to see it, understand it, and seriously ask me about it, the hair issue. Appreciate the chat, the sensitivity, and the writing." So here's a white reporter, and like me, I'm a white journalist dude, and I never knew about that issue. So one white reporter asks her about the hair stuff. And Ava Duvernay, you're the only Caucasian person, because I wouldn't have asked about it, because it would have gone right over my head. Who, whether male or female, who asked about it. I really appreciate that you asked about that. And that's it. So some ass backward fucktard decides to take that statement and make up this thing. Ava Duvernay is saying racism caused bad reviews. All based on this tweet. The racism that is out there is mind-boggling. And like for them, and so you got people writing to me saying, John, like people who just saw the headlines writing, who buy into this crap. They go, John, did you see that? Apparently, Ava Duvernay is saying like everybody who gave a bad review to Wrinkle in Time is because they're racist. It's like, what? Then you dig into it and you see that tweet, and it's like, oh my God, how do these sites live with themselves? Seriously, whoever the asshat is that wrote this Tyler O'Neill, I've never heard of this loser. I've never heard of this fucktard. But how does this dude sleep at night? Writing that as a headline when Ava Duvernay said nothing remotely close to that. There is nothing in this tweet that comes remotely close to Duvernay using racism to explain away bad reviews. This fuckface, this Tyler O'Neill asshole, like unbelievable. So anyway, that just really bothered me today. So anyway, El Tachobo saying, thanks for setting straight the Ava DuVernay story. Guys, when you see these headlines, read into it. Dig into it. Get into the story and say, okay, what are you basing this on? And find it. They based that on that tweet. Ava DuVernay thanking a white reporter for being the one white reporter who actually recognized this issue that most white reporters wouldn't recognize, like myself, because I didn't realize that insecurity about hair issues is something young black girls go through. I didn't know that. So Ava DuVernay sends out a tweet thanking this one white writer who recognized it and says, thank you for writing about that and your sensitivity towards that. How is that Ava DuVernay saying anybody who gave my movie a bad review is because of racism? I feel like blood vessels are popping in my head just thinking about that. Like, some people are such assholes. Anyway, writing those types of headlines. Crazy. Anyway, Seawalk733 writes, Hulk in Hulkbuster armor maybe gets ripped off. Oh, I'm guessing it probably gets ripped off. I'm guessing it does, but oh my God, Hulk in Hulkbuster armor. Like, crazy. Bex EXP writes, hey, John, I have a question. How you doing? I'm doing good, Bex. Thank you so much for asking. Let's see. Next one. Tino Svlado Mendoza writes, in a previous show, somebody said Kylo needs to lose a limb. Guess they didn't see Logan Lucky. Yeah, so somebody in a previous show said, you know, Kylo needs to go through the Skywalker tradition, getting a limb cut off. And for those of you who did not see Logan Lucky, and it's a real shame that more of you didn't see Logan Lucky. In Logan Lucky, he plays a character that is a war amputee. He's missing an arm because of his time serving in the military. So very good observation, Tin. I appreciate that. Let's see. Cash SB writes, couldn't reserve tickets with Cinemia past April 17th. Well, that sounds like it makes sense to me because maybe it has to be within a month. But I'm just saying, I booked tickets for Avengers with my Cinemia card. So maybe, I don't know, maybe being able to book outside of a 30-month window, because I have like the max package for Cinemia. Maybe that's something I'm able to do and somebody else isn't. I don't know. But check with their customer service. See what's going on with that. All right. James McGee writes, what are your top 3 South Park episodes? Well, I don't like doing top 3, top 5. I'll tell you a couple of my favorites. One is Canada on strike over the WGA writer strike thing. That was hilarious. One is on the freemium mobile games, where it was actually the devil that made it all happen. That's another one. And the other one is Shake Weight. So those 3 episodes, those are 3 that come to my mind. But look, if I sat down and really thought about it, those are just off the top of my head. If I sat down and really thought about it, I could probably come up with other ones that would take those place. But, it's tough to do that off the top of my head. All right. Steve Alexander writes, "Hey, John. Hey, Steve. Been a fan since 2013. Thank you so much, Steve. Yesterday, I saw you on Jason Inman's show. I'm glad you guys know each other. Thanks for all the hard work that you do. Because of you, I know more than my peers." Well, thank you so much for that. And I don't remember being on Jason's show. Do you mean you saw Jason on my show? Or did Jason use a clip of he and I talking on one of his shows? If so, I didn't know about it. So I didn't know. But yes, Jason's a great guy. He married a good Canadian girl. I've known Jason for a couple of years now. Super nice guy, really knowledgeable. I love having him on my show when I have the opportunity to do so. All right. Next one comes to us from the Matt2186, who writes, "What if Loki hands over a fake Tesseract? And that's what Thanos crushes. It being Loki's last trick as an act of heroism." Well, here's the problem. Loki can create illusions. As far as I know, in the movies, he can't create out of thin air a physical thing that Thanos takes and crushes. I think he actually hands over the Tesseract, and I think he crushes it so he can get at the stone that's inside. That's what I think is at the heart of that. I love what you're suggesting. Somebody else suggested on the show this morning that what if Loki agrees to hand it over in exchange for Thanos letting Thor go? And saving Thor's life becomes the last act, the last redemptive act of Loki. It would be beautiful. If they did that, that would be beautiful. But I don't think that thing that Thanos crushes is an illusion, because you can't crush an illusion per se. But who knows? Maybe you're right. Let's see. Jordan Benjamin writes, "Did you notice in the Infinity War trailer when Thanos jumps to Superman punch Cap?" I know where you're going with this. "It's a different background setting to when Cap holds him off." Cheeky edit. Yes. So my favorite shot, I still have this graphic queued up. My favorite shot of the trailer by far is Cap holding off Thanos with the Infinity Glove there. And then the shot goes to Thanos' face and he almost looks concerned, like Thanos is like confused. Favorite shot. But right before that shot is a very cheeky edit, as you say, of Thanos jumping up in the air as if he's doing a Superman punch, and then a cut edit, but it's a totally different background from the background behind Thanos as Steve is actually holding his fist. So you're right, it was a cheeky edit, totally. It still doesn't take away from the pure epicness of this shot, though. This is the money shot of the trailer. I just adored it to no end. Absolutely to no end. All right, let's move on here. A guy like me, 184 writes, "I think Thanos kills Gamora to use Soul Stone." I don't know what your rationale there is to you. I don't know what you mean by that. I think Thanos kills Gamora to use Soul Stone. But let's forget that last part. You think Thanos kills Gamora? That would be interesting. Especially if they set up, because we saw in the trailer, right? They show us a flashback to when Thanos claims Gamora as his daughter. So if they did that and then set up Thanos killing Gamora, wow. It's unlikely, because I think James Gunn is going to continue to use Gamora in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I don't think Gamora is going anywhere. I don't think they're going to kill her. But who knows? The MCU has done stranger things before, man. They have done stranger things before. All right. This next one comes to us from The Incredible Hulk, who writes, "I think Arn-Man is in..." Oh, you mean Ant-Man. "I think Ant-Man is in the trailers. He's just small." Yeah, we joked about that. Hey, look, but all joking aside, it is completely feasible and possible that there are shots we see in the trailer that Ant-Man is in. He just might be that small. I mean, we've been joking about that, but joking aside, it is possible that that's the case. Where and when, who knows? We just know that Ant-Man's in the movie. We still haven't seen him in the marketing. Why are they hiding him? Why are they hiding Hawkeye? These are going to be big questions we're going to have to get answered. All right. Jordan Benjamin writes, Soul Stone is Tony's arc reactor. R.I.P. Iron Man. Well, no, I don't think so. But it does look like Tony gets a severe beatdown in this movie. I still don't think he dies, but it's totally possible. But no, I do not think the Soul Stone is the arc reactor. Alfonso Brooks writes, I got excited seeing Sherry with Iron... Oh, you mean Shuri. Seeing Shuri. Yes, I geeked out a little bit too. And you know, it's funny because the first time I watched the trailer, I missed it. I missed Shuri. Then the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, wait a minute, it's Shuri. So, I mean, we knew Shuri was in the movie, but it was exciting to me to see her. And she's one of my favorite new Marvel characters. I loved her in Black Panther. I think other than T'Challa himself, I think she was my favorite character in Black Panther, was Shuri. I can't wait to see them use her more moving forward. The Incredible Hulk then falls. I meant Ant-Man. Yes, don't worry about it. I got you. Comic Kid writes, maybe they are CGing out the rest of the stones. That's possible. Because one of the things a lot of people have been mentioning, including myself, going back to this image here, is that, okay, so clearly at this point, Thanos only has 2 of the stones. However, we have seen, trailers before because they were trying to hide what was going to happen in Thor Ragnarok, where they showed Thor with both eyes, even though we know he's lost an eye now, right? So what if, just to hide something here, they're CGing out the other stone? I don't see why they would do that at this point. Why not just CGI out all the stones? Why not CGI out one stone? Why not? I mean, so I don't think that's what they're doing here, but you raise a very good point. It is possible that they're CGing out, but I just don't see any purpose of doing that at this point. Crimson ID4 writes, you once said Thor Ragnarok was the darkest comic book movie, but I feel that Logan was darker because despite the events of X-Men Days of Future Past to save mutant kind, Logan showed that they still had a bad future, very nihilistic. Well, remember, there's a couple things to keep in mind. One, the director of the film, Mangold, and Hugh Jackman have said before, it's not really in continuity with the other X-Men films. Logan is basically a standalone Elseworld movie. It's not meant to be taken literally in continuity with the other X-Men films. It's kind of Mangold and Logan. Mangold and Hugh Jackman have both expressed it. It's kind of its own timeline thing. It is a very dark film. To me, dark is about content, what happens in it. And Thor Ragnarok had the most devastating things ever in the MCU happen in it. We had the death of Odin, the Allfather. He dies. We had the destruction of Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. We had most and foremost, we had the destruction of Asgard. The world Asgard, the eternal realm, is gone. It's destroyed. We saw a lot of people die. We saw a lot of killing going on. There's some very, very... Thor loses an eye. There's some really dark shit that happens in the movie. It's all contained in a lighthearted kind of comedy feel, but very, very dark stuff happens in that movie. I've never said that Thor was the darkest comic book movie of all time. I said Thor was the darkest MCU movie. And I stand by that. Is Logan a bit darker? I will agree with you on that. I think Logan's a bit darker, but that's a separate conversation because Logan's not MCU. At least not yet at that point. Good observation, though. Haskell 420 writes, hey, John, Infinity War trailer. Oh, my God. Infinity War. My tickets. Thursday at 7 p.m. IMAX. 10:35 p.m. IMAX 3D. Friday, 10 a.m. IMAX. 2 p.m. IMAX 3D. 7 p.m. IMAX 3D. Saturday, 10 a.m. IMAX. I'm ready. You are certainly ready. I don't want to know how much you spent on all of those tickets, but it's for a good cause, man. Here's hoping, Haskell, here's hoping that you don't go to that Thursday at 7 p.m. IMAX screening and hate the movie. That'll suck, especially if you got all these other tickets coming through. Here's hoping you don't hate it. I hope you love it as much as we all think we're going to. All right. Let's move on here. Next one comes to us from Act Naturally Productions. All right. And Act Naturally Productions writes, Thanos is looking like Gorilla Grodd with that armor. And there is a little bit of similarity there, isn't there? I have to go back and watch that again, but I think you're right. There's a little bit. You're right. I think if you just look past it quickly, you would be forgiven if you thought it was Gorilla Grodd. Good observation. Let's see. Tin writes in again. Thor 3 takes place 2 years after Civil War. Thor tells Bruce, I think. So Scarlet Johansson's Infinity Wars 3 years later comment may be true. Oh yeah, look, we'd have to sit down with some math and figure it all out. I still don't know how accurate, or even if Scarlett Johansson was even trying to be accurate. She just threw, hey, it's 2 or 3 years, blah, blah, blah. Like, we just don't know. But I'm sure we'll get a much better, clearer picture when... Now, we already know the MCU's had timeline issues before. The MCU's had timeline issues through their films. This might be another timeline issue, or maybe it's not. We'll just have to wait and find out. Okay, last couple of ones here. Lance Pro 85 writes, I would like to predict that Thanos will get all but one stone, and the Avengers will send the last stone off into space, maybe towards Warlock. I don't think so. I think maybe he will get all but one, maybe he'll get all but two, and I have a feeling that will have a lot to do with what Avengers 4 is going to be. I don't think they're just going to send it off into space. That doesn't seem to make sense because Thanos has spaceships. Sending it off to space would not be hard for Thanos to go out and get, I don't think. So it's an interesting theory. I don't agree with it, but who knows? Let's see the movie. You might be right. Next one comes to us from a guy like me who writes, I think Thanos is going to use the Space Stone to bring back Red Skull. I also think Wong dies, saving Doctor Strange from Ebony Maw. Hope not. Wong rocks. Well, number one, first of all, Wong does rock. Hold on a second. America... The first Avenger. I do not believe we are going to see Red Skull come back. I would love to see Red Skull come back. I really, truly would. But the problem is, I'm only really interested in seeing Red Skull come back if it's Hugo Weaving. And Hugo Weaving has said he wasn't going to do it anymore. Now, Marvel could force him to do it because they have a contract. They could force him to come back and do it. And Hugo Weaving has said that. I mean, they could make me do it, but I don't think Marvel wants to make him do it. And I think we would have heard or seen something of that by now. Red Skull is not the be-all, end-all. So it's not like Red Skull is the great secret spoiler. It's Red Skull. He was a villain in one movie once a while ago, who doesn't have cosmic power and all that sort of stuff. So I don't see why they'd be hiding that so much. So, I mean, I would love it if Hugo Weaving came back to play Red Skull. I love that character. But I think it's unlikely that that'll happen. All right. Then we get into the last question today from Lowell, who wrote in, my daughter is in love with Loki. There's a lot of people in love with Loki, man. Don't have the heart to tell her. Looks like a great what? Looks like a great father-daughter film, though. Ant-Man shrinks into an alternate universe to find the Soul Stone. Well, I mean, that's all possible, too. Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about how it seems like Loki, it looks like, we don't know this for a fact, we're just guessing. It looks like Loki's going to die in that opening of the movie when Thanos' ship gets Thor's ship. He beats the hell out of Thor. He probably kicks the hell out of Hulk. And now that's left is Loki with the Tesseract. And I'm guessing he dies. I hope he doesn't die. I don't want Loki to die, but they may kill him. And if he does, I'm sure it'll be in service to the narrative. And that would be very powerful as well to Thor if he sees Loki die. Especially Loki, trying to save the day now. Especially if Loki trades the Tesseract to try to save Thor. I mean, that would be a great emotional impact on a character. It would have great narrative purpose, but you're right. I don't want it to happen, man. I don't want it to happen. All right, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of this special supplemental video to make sure I get caught up on all the questions that you guys sent in live on the John Campea Show and on Open Mic. Thanks so much for being here. Listen, jump down to the comment section. What are you thinking about for Infinity War? What do you think of that trailer? What do you think we got coming? What sort of theories do you think pop up out of this? I want to hear what you guys think. Jump down to the comment section below and leave me your thoughts. All right, guys, that'll do it for me for this installment of my show. And so my name's John Campea, and until my next video,